here in mid-Missouri, the heartland of America. And I've been here for a couple of days now, if even that, because I'd flown in the evening into MCI in Kansas City. And I had been checked by security at the Netherlands, at Holland's International Airport there at Amsterdam, quite thoroughly, more than ever before. I had about, I don't know, I didn't count, but a number of swabs with this paper-like slip that they use to, you know, put on different parts of your body, arms, legs, back, front, shoulders, etc. Just wherever. It was so many I didn't count. And what I did is had to answer a lot of questions like, had I traveled to Turkey, any cities in Turkey? Did I travel to any other cities in Georgia? And what's interesting is that Georgia just had, this is where I originally traveled from, they had a counter-terrorist operation where they allegedly killed, or one of the guys blew themselves up, an ISIS fighter or an ISIS mastermind. If you look at the news out of Turkey, he planned, allegedly, or was suspected to plan what happened at a bombing by ISIS of the airport, one of the airports in Turkey. So they checked me quite thoroughly, and then they asked if I'd been to, I said, well, they asked if I'd been to a military base. I said, yeah, I had filmed at military base. I was actually escorted onto base by U.S. Secret Services and was with Katie, a reporter with Net Gazzetti. And so I actually filmed and photographed U.S. Vice President Mike Pence at Vaziani Air Base, August 1st, 2017, during the Noble Partner 2017 military exercises. And what's interesting is that that's the birthday of my grandfather, who was buried at Ridge Park Cemetery, directly 1/4 of a mile from here. And I'll show you a monument here at his daughter's place now, my aunt, which my mother and father started as a home and business back in the 70s or early 80s. I think it was 70s. Here is that monument. So I don't know, maybe I'll get it this way to make sure that I've got it, because I don't have a, you see that, that's Eastwood Acres. But they tested me there at Holland and asked me all kinds of questions. So, like, of course, the typical security questions, like, did anyone else give you anything, a package or anything? Did anyone else give you any liquids or anything like that? Did anyone else did you pack your own luggage, that kind of thing? And these little slips were like this. They would go around the body, and then they put it in the machine, and presumably testing for, see if I had handled some sort of substances. I'm guessing, I don't know. I'm not a security expert in airport security, but what I can say is that they asked me if I spoke Dutch. I said no, I don't speak Dutch. So I have a last name which is Dutch, and my family, of course, is from, the paternal side of my family has a line that directly comes from Holland all the way back to Amsterdam. Not Amsterdam, but Rotterdam. So Rotterdam is where one of our forefathers on the Vanderpool side of the family, the men's side of the family, patriarchal, if you want to say it like that, goes all the way back to Rotterdam, where he fled some sort of revolution or civil war that was over, I believe, religious problems at the time. Religions, of course, are a great cause of war, as are now. Also the fight over mineral rights, other nations' mineral rights. In any case, I had been checked quite thoroughly at Amsterdam. I'm scheduled to return there for the New Year's celebration. I was warmly welcomed back into the United States by U.S. Passport Customs and Control. I showed my passport to the first guy, and he warmly welcomed me back. He asked me what I'd been doing. I said I had, as a journalist, as a documentary filmmaker, helping with an American Georgian defense-related project for the last 4 years. I said I was out filming a Noble Partner in 2017 military exercises. I said alongside at moments with the U.S. military, and he welcomed me home, wished me safe travels, and gave me a warm welcome back to the United States of America. And what a wonderful, pleasant feeling to be back home. In any case, I have noted that the Dutch may have protected me from being set up. Maybe they were worried about what the Georgian government did. I don't know. It seems that there are allegations by the former president that the guy that supposedly blew himself to pieces in the ISIS counterterrorism operation in Georgia recently may have indeed been released, or was released rather, for questionable reasons by this current government. I don't know. But in any case, all I can know is what I read in various media. And I have read that, and I in fact read that alleged quote directly from Mikhail Saakashvili. The quote was allegedly directly from him, let's say it like that. So I'm back in Missouri. I'm currently scheduled or booked out again for a New Year's celebration in Amsterdam. I've been in Amsterdam several times over the past few years, but they may have been concerned about travelers from Georgia. And understandably so. So the security situation in Georgia apparently has others concerned, certainly in Europe. So looks like my travel in Georgia was questioned by these security guys. Had I been to any other cities? They asked this several times. Have I been to any other cities besides Tbilisi? No. I don't recall having been in any other cities. Now, I've been at Vaziani Air Base and the military base. I filmed there. And then the guy asked, he said, "Oh, you're a photographer." Yeah, I'm a photographer. Even though I've got interviews of STC Delta, the general director of STC Delta, also Dr. Tamar on the surrogacy and IVF program in Georgia, and the package that she's offering, and then also the former building specialist down in Columbia, Missouri at Classic Buildings, who I filmed there, and one of their salespeople ripped off a family member for about $10,000, cheated him on a contract. Classic Buildings is in Columbia, Missouri. So I have an interview with Jimmy Malloy on a nice Amish-built building there. And I've also been interviewed by David M. Baker at Beyond the Gate Radio, and also by Richard Guttrow. I think he's up near Washington. I'm not sure. D.C. But in any case, I've done a lot more than just photographs. In fact, I've done dozens and dozens and dozens of films on military bases, U.S. Embassy events, conflict zone in Georgia, Russian creeping military occupation, NATO events, live fire exercises, pistol range shooting at a NATO event with the Georgian Special Forces. I've done a whole hell of a lot more than just take photos. I've visited U.S. senators' offices several times over the past few years. I have not heard back from Roy Blunt's office in Columbia, Missouri, after I called them from Tbilisi and offered some information and concerns about a project that I was asked to help with and did help with these last 4 years in Georgia. I have yet to hear from him, his office rather. I think that's completely irresponsible, but I'll wait a bit more. In any case, as soon as I landed down, I got an email through LinkedIn, the professional network, from Jeffrey Silverman, who told me face-to-face he's been trained at the best schools at Langley. So the former U.S. Army scout, and certainly one of the finer men trained in the U.S. Army. Specifically, I believe in handling chemical or biological weapons, something like this. But he has some interesting expertise. He's now an investigative journalist. He's written up an autobiography and also written up in Veterans Today magazine. In any case, it's been perfect flight. Delta Airlines got us in here 30 minutes early. That's fantastic. That's so rare, at least in my experience of world travel in over 29 countries, if we include layovers and feet on the ground. 5 long-term expat-style travel, and over the last 13 years. It's pretty disgusting what's happening in Georgia, though. It looks to me like they've gotten one professor there who's met with a lot of diplomats for Georgia. It told me that the previous administration there had gotten he was just asked about the kickbacks they got to the U.S. Embassy, all this money that's coming in through U.S. aid there, and the people are predominantly still in Africa level of poverty, and they have a very difficult time not being hungry. The average physician in Georgia might earn $125 or maybe even $100 a month if they're lucky enough to be employed. Dr. Tamar didn't get paid her salary. She texted me and told me in the last few conversations that we had before she left for America. They didn't pay her salary, and unfortunately I found through both media and actual family that of a physician, a world-class neurosurgeon that works there, that's not uncommon for that to happen. So there you have it. The situation actually is quite dire there, regardless of what the locals or the government would have you to believe. And not only that, the media, as Jeffrey Silverman points out in his latest interview, I don't agree with everything he says, that's for sure. But in his latest interview, he mentions that the average Georgian doesn't even know what's going on in his country anymore, and I would have a tendency to agree with that. They don't have a lot of access to any responsible local media. They are heavily censored, as is pointed out by Radio Free Liberty Europe in its section on Georgia, its news page on Georgia, where they state that the current government or current regime has a firm grip on the media, which is heavily censored. In any case, I have a knack, and I'm sure some help now and then, for the better or for the worst, from Team Facebook and Team Internet or Team Google or whatever the hell it really is, from the Internet. I have a knack for finding information that almost no one else gets. Sometimes it comes from other Georgians. I will say that. I will give them due credit that they come up with some information that I can't find and that I can't get. And sometimes it is other Georgian journalists or other Georgian media, although not very well known, or it is sometimes directly from more standard Georgian media. Sometimes it's from other sources, and just another Georgian who got news or made some comments. But largely they are afraid to speak, or simply maybe it's the Eurasian mentality there, or the ex-Soviet communist toxicity still in their sphere, their society, their mentality, that for whatever reasons they're less likely to speak. And if they will speak, they probably feel, and they do, they have to be careful what they say. They're still in a very oppressive environment over there. So in any case, that's kind of the story that I wanted to share this morning. I can do and go where and what I wish. So, but what disappointed me was to show up in Georgia, and not one time did Layla Cardvelli meet with me, president of ISAC. Not one time did she thank me, like, or share one single photo of the A10 corridor. It's intimately linked to the Alexander Cardvelli story. I myself had suggested in a letter to her that we do an event at Abastamani, the observatory in Georgia, and get like the chess players, Georgia's chess champions, judo champions. They kicked ass in all of Europe. They're champions in judo and against the Russians as well. Get their sports guys, their girls, their chess champions, the gifted, the successful, notable people in society, which actually is part of the project. It's part of the ISAC project, as stated to me by Katuna Polari of the Ministry of Defense over there, the one who actually signed, the lawyer, the advocate for the Ministry of Defense. It's actually part of the project. And I wrote and I said, let's take him to Abastamani. Let's set up the exhibition there to where those Georgian youth, those Georgian success stories. There's even a guy that's a black belt champion there. He lives out in one of the smaller areas, cities in Georgia, and he got into some controversy over some statements made or something, I don't know, but he's a black belt champion. And that's very interesting. So they should have got these Georgian guys and girls together and took them up to Abastamani and gave them an ISAC, an honorary membership into ISAC, the society, International Society of Alexander Cardvelli. Did they do that? No, they did not. What they did do is have a Cardvelli Association, which is a competing association, according to Layla and Ramaz Bluishvili. They both accuse each other of stealing each other's stuff, by the way. And so instead of doing that, they have the NASA scientists come over, which is cool, but they never invited me. Nobody told me nothing about it. I got one notice through the internet, through Facebook, on some event, and then I had to study up about it, and the initial event had already occurred. And it was U.S. Embassy sponsored. So who are paying for these people? Who are sponsoring these people? Are they getting U.S. American taxpayers' money? Are they getting government money? Are they getting U.S. aid money? Are they getting U.S. government money and funding? And then they've got an American journalist over there, a documentary filmmaker, who has made dozens and dozens of videos and documentary films on these topics, actually been at the events, filmed as of this summer, side by side, at moments, at times, with the United States military. Multinational fire exercises, including the DCM, Elizabeth Root, of the U.S. Embassy in Tbilisi, Georgia, herself, about the Georgian military's very important contribution to international security and to the United States military fighting side by side with them, shoulder to shoulder, in overseas wars, in defense and security. And what happens? I don't get one notice, nothing from the U.S. Embassy there, not one. And so how is that responsible of the U.S. Embassy in Georgia to not notify the person that was asked and has participated in an American-Georgian defense-related project for the last 4 years at my own expense? Time and money. How is that responsible? It's not responsible, and it's damned well not responsible use of U.S. taxpayers' money out of the American people's funding of the American government through taxes. It's not responsible at all. It's not responsible that someone didn't contact me and say, hey, here's a Cardvelli event. And by the way, that NASA topic and NASA technology and NASA scientists that came and talked on the Cardvelli Association's event, U.S. Embassy sponsored, September, I think 25th through 28th, maybe 23rd. But what happens with that? Layla's not there. Layla claims her mother died on September 26th. I never saw, heard, or met Layla, except for Layla to say in chat that her mother died. That's it. And in addition to that, when I go to the hospital there, the country's largest, best, top hospital to meet with Tamar, and a man that wrote our business agreement, claimed to represent his company, U.S. Marines, in court cases with U.S. judges. Claimed that the laboratory there for testing of genetics, next generation testing of genetics, NASA technology, by the way. And I, as a filmmaker, documentary filmmaker, and honorary member of the International Society of Alexander Cardvelli, or ISAC for short, ISAKK, I don't get any notice to go film, photograph, or simply attend and listen to our NASA scientist. That's how irresponsible our U.S. Embassy there is, and the people that are their official proxies, such as Layla Cardvelli, as I understand, because before I agreed to help her with ISAC, I spoke to the U.S. Embassy. So, you know, it's really disgusting how our funds, American taxpayers' money and dollars and time, is wasted overseas, especially in critical places like Georgia that are geopolitically, strategically critical, according to Donald Rumsfeld of the Rumsfeld Foundation, who I've rode on a jet with, coincidence or not, into Baku, into Tbilisi, speaking with his daughters to my left, his son behind me, and at one moment he was 3 feet in front of me on that flight through a thunderstorm into Baku, into Tbilisi, just a short few months before Katuna Polori contacted me through Georgia Ministry of Defense and asked me to help with this project. In fact, she originally asked me for advice. The advice that I gave her, she put the content to. Advice on Georgia's defense, which, coincidentally or not, has resulted in alignment with exactly what I filmed last on a military topic in Georgia, which is the Noble Partner 2017 multinational military exercises. International exercises. Now, that's my story for today, unless I get the notion to tell some more later. Enjoy, my friends. It's a beautiful, wonderful winter morning here in Marshall, Missouri, Saline County, the American heartland. And just take note, I didn't hear from Layla Cardvelli one single time about a thanks for the Whiteman's Air Force Base air show photos I took of the A-10, the Warthog. And Facebook might have censored those photos. This guy, George, who's a rocket scientist over there, claimed that it was Facebook that censored him, not him. Facebook said it was him that was censoring them. I don't know. I know that every time I would like a pro-positive Trump news back around election time and even after a little bit this time last year, they would block me on Facebook instantly, as if though to try to teach me that, hey, you better not like. Because my settings are to where if I like something, they broadcast out to all my friends and friends of friends, that kind of thing. I'm reaching thousands of people, thousands of people, according to the inadequate web analytics of YouTube and Twitter, which is connected to my Facebook account. I'm reaching thousands of people all over the earth. And they're active. They're active viewers. They're active readers. They're actively visiting my what I write and what I post and what I share. So I know I'm having an impact, regardless. So what I'd like to point out, though, is that Layla did not thank me, like or share one single photo of the A-10 Warthog, but yet her organization and she herself directly asked that I popularize Alexander Cardvelli. Well, there's going to be a photo I'm going to post under this video on the Facebook share. I'll put it up on YouTube. And you'll see that that is of the truck that I just walked past here on Eastwood in Marshall, Missouri. It is painted as if it were the A-10, the nose of the Warthog, the best low combat support fighter jet aircraft of the U.S. military and of NATO. Close combat air support. And it's got a hell of a gun on that nose. And that's the photo that was getting censored the most, is when I came up and put my hand on that nose. So just down the street here, there's a truck, one of our great neighbors. I don't know who it is, but I'm sure we'll find out to hear about it. It has the truck painted as if it was a Warthog with that same shark nose on the where the front wheel of the truck is. It's really cool. So I'll post that next. But anyway, I'm a little bit pissed that Layla herself didn't share the photos that I contributed on the A-10, on Alexander Cardvelli, an American who was wildly successful here in America in his ingenuity, and also to NASA, and in his contribution to military aviation, which is what the International Society of Alexander Cardvelli is all about. And in asking me to popularize that, for her to not contact me, not thank me, or like or share any of those photos is bullshit. If she got any American funding, then that's something that our representatives here in Missouri, such as Vicky, Roy Blunt, Claire McCaskill, and so on, they should be addressing. They should be dealing with that. Same thing with the U.S. Embassy, because nobody did, in my opinion, nobody's doing their goddamn job as efficiently and as correctly and thoroughly as they should over in the country of Georgia. Now, goddammit, they lost 2 villages during Noble Partner 2017 exercises to Russian military creeping occupation wire. 2 more villages were brought under during those exercises. I think it's a cry by the Kremlin for a political solution. It shows the futility of such exercises if they don't have Medicaid, Medicare type situations over there, an adequate pension, adequate medical insurance for the elderly there, a lot of them which own the flat and apartments of which the younger Georgians live in. They are their grandfathers and grandmothers who I was told are dying and perishing in the village, in the villages or in the streets because of lack of food, lack of money. When Putin comes in and takes part of signs a new memorandum of understanding with Abkhazia, for example, and promising them free access and medical care to all Russian hospitals and clinics. That's the occupied area by Russian military, Russian occupation forces of Georgia. 20% of it's still under Russian military occupation. And then what has the current government of Georgia done in that regard to keep their own perishing or starving elderly population, a large part of them without adequate pension, without adequate medical insurance? What are they doing about that? That's the question. What are they doing about that? But yet there's a $75 million rocket sale on the table to Georgia. The Javelin, wonderful weapons system, amazing, goddamn the best, excellent, one of the best. It will destroy most enemy armor with almost a 100% accuracy and kill rate. It's fantastic. In the meantime, they could sell them these missiles, and they probably should. I think they should. They should. There's no question about it. Yeah, they should. There's no question. In the meantime, they're going to catch flack from the population, whether they'll say it out loud or not, because they're so afraid to speak there about certain topics. We'll never know that, maybe. But they'll all be thinking, I know these people, they'll all be thinking, damn, our government just spent $75 million on Javelin rocket systems to take out any enemy armor, but yet grandmother died last year because she couldn't have enough to eat or couldn't get the medical care she needed because, well, as Jeffrey Silverman pointed out, they don't even test the blood in Georgia. And that's true. I had one girl go in that I knew had a problem, and they didn't even test her blood. They don't even have really the kind of medical insurance and situation that they need there. So that's what's happening in the situation. And then what they do is they have people over there that are in the government You know, you get people like Layla Cardvelli or the U.S. Embassy, and who's holding them responsible to keep up with what they should or shouldn't be doing in terms of what the public should be, you know, reporting on or concerned about, and that's why they ask certain people to help them as journalists. In the meantime, American money's going there over, I think officially it's 1.5 billion, though some have said it's actually probably twice as high in U.S. aid money. Second only to Israel per capita U.S. aid money going there more than any other place on earth besides Israel, and they still have a starving population. That's bullshit. So in any case, I still haven't heard from Layla Cardvelli, and but the last photo she posted that I could find on her Facebook page was with Georgian Dream at the Georgian Dream voting table. And I think she was told to stay out of politics, or at least keep politics away from ISAC. So it's the message that I got, which is that, hey, you took photos of the A-10, the Warthog, Alexander Cardvelli's stuff. You helped to contribute to our project, but I'm not going to thank you, like, or share any of those photos. And in fact, you come all the way over, spend all this money, and she never even met with me or spoke with me. She just chatted with me enough to say, my mother died on the same timing that the competing organization, the Cardvelli Association, had a display of Cardvelli's NASA level involvements, or perhaps our own NASA scientists were there. So they should make up their mind. They either were serious about the project or they weren't. Silverman said they designed that project as a project to fail. Have a good day, friends, and enjoy just a little part of my story overseas, where I filmed in October 2013 the creeping Russian military occupation in a war zone, an official conflict zone, on approach under targeting of military sniper, where most people had been kidnapped, detained, killed, or disappeared. And it still happens today. That film is up on YouTube. You should see it. Facebook had censored that for years too. You would post about it, right? I would post about it, that the Russian military had occupied 150 more cities and villages since the August 2008 war. Post wouldn't show. Post wouldn't show. Like, what happened? Did I not hit the right key here on the keyboard? What's happening? No, it would delay, and then it would finally pop through later, and just. But it's always been that way. There's always someone out there, some agency, something that censors sensitive information. Sensitive to who? We are in a world where I'm an American, and within the norms of free speech and international law, and certainly now within the law of America, where I'm currently standing and making this video, which I'll publish, I will keep my free speech and freedom of expression. Have a good day, friends.